So this is one of those drawings that turned out looking completely different than the image I had in my head. And actually the image I had in my head is not even whatever you're seeing going on right now at the beginning. What I first envisioned was kind of like rainbowy colors with like coral and all that stuff, which honestly still sounds like a cool idea in my opinion. Still want to do that, but yeah, I don't know. When I just started doing that, it just wasn't happening. I wasn't really completely sure how I wanted to put that onto paper or virtual paper, whatever. Anyway, so I made it pink at first because, I mean, what a surprise, man. What a surprise. A sidey piece starting with pink? That's unheard of. But yeah, most of my pieces start off pink, and then sometimes they diverge and go elsewhere. And in this case, it actually did, which surprised everybody. So I actually went with purple for this one. The reason will surprise you. The reason was that I was scrolling through Instagram art and just looking at cool art, and I saw this one, I think it was like a gouache painting or something. I don't know. I follow a lot of gouache artists. I think gouache is really cool, even though I'm not great at it and I don't do it often. I want to. But I saw this gouache piece of, I think it was a raw egg in a glass cup or something. Okay, whatever. Anyway, the point was the colors were like lavender and this really beautiful golden yellow, and it was just such a gorgeous use of complementary colors, and I just couldn't really get that out of my head, so I wanted to do something with those colors. So I don't know, I was just thinking about how I could try that out, so this is the product of that. And then I think I remember seeing in that piece also like little bits of green, maybe a little bit of light blue, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to play around with this sort of a color palette because it's kind of different from what I typically do. And so I guess what you're watching right now is the result of that. And if you look closely, you can kind of see me struggle a little bit. I would say this is a pretty difficult piece for me. One with the person who incidentally may as well just be me at this point, honestly. You guys know that most of the references I use are just pictures that I take of myself, and then because of that, everything ends up becoming a self-portrait, even if I don't like intend it to, which either is just nice and resourceful or makes me look really self-centered. I don't know. In either case, I guess it's me, or looks like me. I don't know. That's just the photo I took. But that was kind of difficult because obviously the photo I took had completely different lighting. Unfortunately, I don't personally own bioluminescent noodles, so yeah, we just had some nice kitchen overhead lighting. So it was really a challenge for me to kind of imagine how the lighting I wanted to have in the piece would work with someone looking down at that angle. Because I think in real life, when there's a light source from under you and that's shining up on your face, it can look a little weird. And I think it does look a little weird here in this piece, but yeah, I tried to not make it look super odd. You know, I don't want it to look jarring or look like, you know, that's not what a person looks like. And then another thing I struggled with was my safety zone and avoiding that. So I would say my safety net when it comes to drawing and colors and stuff like that is having a point of intense light and then having these really intense shadows to you know, emphasize the part that's has the most lighting, the most highlights. And I like doing that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think there are really interesting ways to go about that, but I think I've just gotten so used to doing that it's become kind of a shortcut to rendering a piece, if that makes sense. You know, I feel like I could take any scene, and as long as I give it a little light source and then just add some shadows, then I just kind of call it a day. So I wanted to keep myself from doing that and challenge myself to not have very dark darks in this piece, which I usually do. So I wanted to keep the darkest parts of the piece as midtones and see what would happen with that, because that's kind of what the image that I had in my head. I wanted this kind of like dreamlike, hazy, sort of weird vibe going on. So I kept myself from doing that, And in the end, I'm glad I did. It was kind of hard. It was different from my usual of like very intense highlights and very intense darks, but I really like it, and I think I want to give this kind of a color palette another shot in the future. So I hope you liked this piece. Hope you liked watching the process. Feel free to ask me any questions if you have any questions at any point. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope I see you around.